Here we're back with part 2 of the math review from chapter 1 appendix. And before I get to nonlinear functions down here, I want to talk briefly about the difference between a change along a line and a change in a line. So here we have our line for ads on radio, and we look at the sales and the amount of money spent on these ads. And if you only change these variables on this graph, then you move along the same line. So as long as we only change the money spent on ads for radio and look at the sales we get, we're moving up and down this line here based on how much we spend on radio ads. And that'd be movement along the same line. You only change the variables on the graph. If you change another variable that's not on the graph, then you're going to create a new line. And so when we go from ads, spending money on radio ads to spending money on YouTube, we now have added in a third variable, which is where we spend the money on in terms of what kind of medium. And so if we spend money on YouTube ads, we get a different line now. And so we move from this line to that line. And so you get a change in the line when you change something that's not physically on this graph here. And we'll talk more about that when we get to chapter 3 on supply and demand. Now we do have some nonlinear functions in this class, but we're not going to have any equations. These are when you have curves, and this means that the way that x affects y changes. When x starts out, it might affect y in a large manner, and later on it might decrease that effect, or vice versa. It might start out having a small effect on y, but if x gets larger, it has a larger effect on y. That might be more realistic in many cases, but in this class we won't have any kind of equations that would deal with nonlinear functions. The last thing we're going to do for math review is look at percentage changes. And we're going to have a lot of these in this class. You have to do these type of calculations on exams. And this is a very useful concept to know out there. Unfortunately, I've noticed that students are not being taught percentage changes that much, it seems like, in mathematics courses. And so I'm going to review this right here. And what we have here is a nice simple equation. We have a new number, subtract the original number from that, and divide by the original number. You always want to divide by the original number because we want to compare where we are now to where we were in the past. And so an example would be right here. Let's say we have 2 years, 2 different prices for some product. And let's say in 2019, the price is $20. And now in 2020, the price is $24. And so we want to know what the percentage increase is. Now we know it went up by $4, but $4 doesn't tell us the whole story. Because if a price of a new Mercedes went up by $4, that would not mean very much. But if a price of, say, a 6-pack of Coca-Cola went up by $4, that would mean a lot more. And so percentage changes tell us the magnitude of these changes. And so down here, let's do the calculation. The new number is 24. You can write in dollars, but you can see we'll have dollars over dollars. They'll just cancel out, so I'll just leave the dollars off. 24 minus 20, that will be the change. We want to compare it to the starting number of 20. Times by 100 to turn the decimal into a percent. And so this would be 4 over 20 times 100. 4 over 20 would be 0.2 times 100 would give us 20%. And that's the magnitude of the increase, which is a relatively large increase. And you need the percent sign there. If you just write 20 with nothing, it's going to be marked wrong because it's not 20 nothing, it's 20%. To another one here, you also take percent changes and percent numbers themselves. Let's say the unemployment rate in year 1 is 4%, and let's say the unemployment rate in year 2 is 8%. And so the percent increase. Now, some people might say it went up by 4%, and that is incorrect. It has not gone up by 4%. You can see 4 to 8 actually has doubled. So 4% is quite low compared to the actual increase. Just do the math. We take the new number, 8%. The percents will cancel out as well, so you can just leave them off right now. And then there's minus 4. And then you divide by 4, and then you times by 100. So that's the new number, that's the original number, that's the original number. This would be 4 over 4 times 100. Well, 4 over 4 is 1, so this will give you 100%. So it's not 4%, it's a 100% increase. Now, some people would say, well, you went up by 4 something. Well, yeah, they went up by 4 percentage points. 4 percentage points. So you don't say it went up by 4%, you would say 4 percentage points. Percentage points is a different concept than percent. Percent tells you the magnitude of change. Percentage points don't. Percentage points just tells you the absolute change. And it went up by 4. Be careful when you use this terminology because, again, you want to explain yourselves correctly, and I notice a lot of people out there do confuse percent with percentage points. Okay, and that is a math review, and we'll stop there.